Welcome to the As You Wish Publishing Podcast, Episode 1. I'm here with Todd Schaefer. I'm Kyra Schaefer, and we're going to talk to you today a little bit about publishing. Welcome, Todd. How you doing?
Hi, Kyra. It's great to be here.
And so we decided that we were going to essentially just kind of get just a podcast up and running, because a lot of people have questions about publishing, especially as using book publishing as an asset opportunity, so that people who are starting their small business or they're connecting with these types of ideas, they may not know kind of what they need or what they could be doing or how they could be doing it in this publishing realm. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. Todd wrote an amazing blog post recently, and we kind of want to get into that. So, Todd, take it away.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kyra.
You're welcome. Do we want to tell people who we are together?
Yeah, maybe we should have had that conversation before this.
Maybe. Well, I'm Kyra Schaefer. My husband is Todd Schaefer. So we are a family-owned business and been publishing books since 2018. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. Wait, I believe it.
So cute.
Yeah, Kyra Schaefer is the creative director of As You Wish Publishing. It was her creation, and I am the COO, Chief of Operations. I build the structures for Kyra's creative vision.
Yeah, in more ways than one. We've had multiple successful businesses, and we've really just, have a lot to share and a lot of wisdom that, we don't want to take with us to the next realm. we want to share our wisdom as much as we can, so that you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel,
Yeah, and for people who listen to this whenever they may find it, they I don't think that there are a lot of publishers that I've ever seen who do podcasts. Like I didn't look hardcore for that, but I don't think it's industry standard.
No, it's
I think it's more highly kind of gate kept.
Yes.
And we're not doing this to say, hey, we'll be your best friends. It's
Right.
not, it's or say give the wrong messages about accessibility. But I would love, if it were me being a customer, a potential customer, I would love it if I could hear somebody speak plainly about what things are. And I could feel like I kind of get to know how their company operates, because I can sort of see how they operate.
Yeah.
And that can be a major trust builder. And if I'm in alignment with that, which I am, if I would want that for myself, then I know that the people who would want to work with me might also appreciate that.
Yeah, agreed. If you do happen to hear little taps in the background, that's just Jack. So if I'm the creative director, you're the operations structure director. What would Jack be, you think? Mascot?
Mascot is fine, sure.
Well, if you hear him, that's what's going on in the background, and he likes to be a part of the action. So let's go ahead and get into it. Take it away, Todd. Let's talk about some of this wisdom we want to share.
In this blog post, I talked about how publishing models actually work. And if you're an author who's out there trying to figure out what kind of publishing you might want to do, you might be very confused about the different types of publishing there are, because not every publisher identifies what kind of publishing they do, even if they do fall into a specific category. And that can be maddening for authors, because if it's one thing authors are aware of, it's conscientiousness about not wanting to get scammed.
One. Yeah. And there's a lot of misinformation about that.
And there's a ton of misinformation. Yeah, absolutely. So I did a lot of research and I synthesized a blog post. It doesn't get into the nitty gritty too much, but it does talk about like these structural differences, enough to be informative for authors, but not so much that it inundates them with detailed information that they might not need or want at this stage in the game.
It's excellent. It's an excellent blog. Anybody who is even thinking about publishing a book, whether you're a small business owner, whether you're a corporation who's wanting to put something together, whether you are a memoirist or you're wanting to essentially create a book that's going to be a legacy book for your family. Whatever it is, this blog post is the one you need to read if you're getting started in that.
So a lot of talk about publishing, focuses on prices, services, promises. Not very many of them actually talk about their structure.
Yep.
It's a lot of it's benefit driven or hype driven or whatever. And some of them aren't even terribly clear about their deliverables either. So
that's true.
So it's like,
what do I get with this?
Yeah. I know the name and I'm excited about being associated with the publisher, and then maybe forgetting about the fact that you're signing something with them.
Yeah.
And
for how long you're signing that for,
and what you're signing over, and all this stuff.
Right.
So I guess the first lesson before I even talk about anything in the blog post is don't make emotional decisions without reading the fine print. Getting published is absolutely cool and fun and all that good stuff. Just make sure that you are publishing within a structure that works for you and what you want for your book, and this post and these episodes associated with this post will give you a very clear idea, especially if you're new to publishing, or if you published a couple different books or self-publishing, or maybe you thought about doing it the different ways. This will be great for that. So every publishing model is built on a very specific distribution of power and risk, control, financial upside, and timeline. I'm going to be covering each one of those with the four primary categories of publishers. All right. They're not cosmetic differences. A lot of people get kind of caught up in the cosmetics because it's fun and flashy at times, and there's a lot of status involved with it, and people getting validation. All of that is great and it's fun, especially if you're doing it as a hobby. But it can also be a little bit misleading. You never want to abandon this, the structure of what you're actually going to be getting, so that you're not disillusioned by the time the actual finish line arrives. So these four structures shape who makes decisions, who absorbs the uncertainty, who benefits long-term, and how much authority the author retains. And that's important, right?
Yes.
What are the primary structures? What are the major different publishing models? What the heck is it, Edgar? If you're a movie buff, you can find out what that line is. But yeah, the four major pillars of publishing, and there's so many rabbit holes I can go down. Let's finish a sentence. The four major pillars of publishing could be considered traditional publishing, the kind that you know from movies and TV shows, and getting a publishing deal and working with my publisher. That's very much traditional publishing. The mythology of publishing that everybody comes in the door with, that's what they've seen and heard from other people, from TV, before they've done much research themselves. That's kind of what they think publishing is. Because that's the pervasive myth.
Yeah. It's my publisher is sending me all over the world to do book signings. By the way, that doesn't happen anymore.
No, not anymore.
They've weaned that way on back. My publisher needs this information. I was just thinking of the other day, the movie Throw Mama from the Train, and how, he was always like, his publisher was always on him to get those next chapters or whatever.
Yeah,
and he had total writer's block or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, we've really been misinformed about how traditional publishing actually is.
Yeah.
We need one of those memes that says what it actually is, what people think it is, what my parents think it is, what, Yeah. So it's, the parents would be like, you're coloring in a coloring book, or like my friends think I'm, jet setting or, and I'm just sitting here hammering out a book, type of deal. But it's not what you think it is. Let's put it that way.
Right. Right. And the more green you are to publishing, the more you might think that it is traditional publishing. Because when we think about any topic, whether it's exercise or eating right or training a dog or whatever, any topic, we only can come in with what we previously thought it might be. And that's our framework. And if we've only ever been told that, well, this is what it looks like in the movies, then those are the thoughts and assumptions that we come into publishing with.
Yeah,
I'm working with
exactly.
my publisher needs more pages, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not that.
The second model is hybrid publishing.
Dun dun dun.
This one is a little bit newer. I don't think it was around much like decades ago.
No.
They're more subsidiaries of traditional publishers than anything. Not
I think
always.
I think it was a way for traditional publishers, or maybe people that wanted to hone in on this industry, where they found a way to make this kind of old world process survive. And some of the predatory practices of hybrid publishing, I mean, just look that up. You'll find a lot of information, are real, and they're kind of dangerous. And some of them are actually really good. So we
Sure.
want to ride that balance
Right.
of what's real. Yeah.
There's a lot of gray area when it comes to hybrid.
Yeah. And people just get misinformation. They keep,
Yeah.
putting it back and forth, and like, oh, well, if you ever pay for publishing, then this means this. And if you ever do this, then, they're trying to steal from you.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true.
Yep.
A lot of debunking here. Yeah.
Yep. Third one is the third primary pillar of publishing would be DIY, or do-it-yourself publishing, or fully independent publishing. When you are the author, you are doing all of it by yourself. Everything, the design, the formatting, all the technical details, and then working with a platform that allows you to do that. That would be considered DIY.
That's right. It could be Lulu.com. It could be KDP, which is from Amazon. It could be the self-publishing through Ingram Spark. So, you've got some of that. And there's actually other ones as well, like even Draft to Digital and stuff like that.
Great. And that's DIY. It's straightforward.
Yeah, but if you don't know what you're doing, those platforms could shut down your account. They could do all kinds of things that are really upsetting.
And I'm literally skimming the surface in the interest of the time slots for these posts. Yeah. There's a ton to say. There's a ton to unpack, but I'm doing it in a way that doesn't overwhelm us or the listeners.
There you go.
And then the final pillar would be considered the final four would be done for you professional self-publishing. So there's like a DIY self-publishing like we were just talking about, but there's also professional self-publishing. Professional done for you self-publishing is where you retain the rights to your book. It's still your book. You're self-publishing it. You're just hiring someone to produce it for you professionally so that it doesn't look like a DIY published book, which can be nice, but often not as nice as if it's professionally done.
Agreed.
And the reason I can say that that's true is because there are a lot of self-publishing services providers or done for you professional self-publishers. There's several different names, assisted self-publishing, several different names that for what we do. This is what we do, by the way, at As You Wish Publishing. When we do this kind of thing, it allows an author to have a professionally created book, great cover design, formatting. You have a publisher's imprint under their ISBN. So with done for you professional self-publishing, it's published under the publisher's imprint, which is an ISBN that they produce and they own, but it is the author's copyright. So You own the book. You can take the book. It is your book. It's almost like as if you did it yourself. It's just that a publisher, a self-publishing service provider, did it professionally so that because there are so many technical hangups that can prevent a book from being published properly and professionally. And now more than ever, with these DIY platforms tightening their, what's the word? Compliance is the right word. It can be more challenging than ever and more potentially detrimental than ever for DIYers to do it successfully, because there's higher risk of not doing it correctly the first time. And if you're kind of testing it as a DIYer to see if you can finagle it and if you can get it right the first time, if you get it wrong, you might get penalized. You might get your account suspended, things like that. They're really cracking down on compliance. So it makes it all the more better for people to choose done for you professional self-publishing if they do want to go the self-publishing route. Yeah. So you got traditional publishing, which is not self-publishing. That's where you usually kind of share ownership or surrender some kind of rights, and for a traditional publisher to help produce a book that actually works for them, expect to get your stuff rewritten and redeveloped and kind of like a movie script.
That's right. Retitled, rewritten,
all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
They find a good idea and then they in some cases they redevelop it in order to make it marketable so that they can invest in it. And then you got hybrid, which can be a little bit of author decision, a little bit of traditional type. We'll go more into that in the future. But there's a lot of different moving parts with hybrid. It's hard to predict. Obviously, you want to read a contract no matter what type of publishing you do, but hybrids especially, you want to read the contracts. Especially, and the best reason to read a contract, and this is my opinion, goes for anything you want to consider, but especially with like names that you've known or names that you've heard of before, brand names. Because if you're attached to a name, it may not necessarily be functioning today like it did 10, 20, or 30 years ago.
That's exactly right.
If it was around that long ago. So you might be thinking, oh, it's a brand I trust. It's the Michelin Man.
Right.
It's McDonald's, if you like that. It's that same experience I know I can go to and get because it's Reynolds wrap, doggone it. That's my aluminum foil, and I ain't using none other. Well, that doesn't go for publishing.
No.
Because
so changed,
especially with subsidiaries which are affiliated with traditional publishers, but don't necessarily aren't built the same, right? It's almost, in some cases, it's like borrowing a name and then producing a different type of product. But authors don't know that, because what they're trying to do, this is too much detail. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, and that's great.
I don't want to go down the deep end or scare people. I just want to inform them and not to give too much info at the first. So those are your those are your four primary models of publishing: traditional, hybrid, DIY, self-publishing, and then done for you, professional self-publishing, when you have a publishing house produce your book for you and then you own the book, just as if you did it yourself.
Yep.
It just looks better, and there's no there is a guaranteed success that book is going to be published correctly, as opposed to DIY, when any number of things can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing, especially with how compliance has tightened lately. And there's more severe penalties if you do it wrong.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is that, we don't necessarily want to make decisions about things for our books in a vacuum. It's important to get outside opinions and insights and wisdom from people who have already done it or have done it many times. Because I remember my first book that I published, and I was like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. I love this cover design. The interior looks fantastic. And now I look back at it and I'm like, oh no, this doesn't even, hit the fundamentals of what makes a book cover, marketable,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So having somebody on the outside looking in and going, hey, have you thought about this, can be really wonderful. And it's also empowering. So Todd, this was our kind of maiden voyage into the As You Wish Publishing podcast. I think we need to do episode 2 pretty quickly. And so we'll see you, everybody listening, again in probably just a few minutes here. So take care and keep writing.